Hi guys, welcome back to Bohs Fan TV, and today we're back with another video doing the match preview for tomorrow's game against Shamrock Rovers at Dalymount Park. No better way to kick off our final year in Dalymount than with a Dublin derby, coming into this off the back of a fantastic away victory up in Derry, a 1-0 win. Could have been more arguably. We had our chances to definitely win it by more, but yeah, an unbelievable win and a great performance to back up that win in Sligo was very important, and we did it, and that helped build the momentum even further, and we've got a great chance to keep that going tomorrow. Look, it's going to be a tricky one. We know Shamrock Rovers, they've only played 2 games so far. One of their games was called off, the game against Shells in Talca Park due to the bad weather, but they got a good 2-0 win against Pats and Tallaght, and then another home game, with a much less positive result on Monday against Dundalk. A 1-1 draw, conceding late. They did make 8 changes for that game, but it was still a very strong team. So that further backed up the point that they could probably put out 2 teams that could really challenge in this league. So that's why it's really important in this game for me anyway. I think we all feel the same, is that we need to have a really fast start. We all remember that game last year in Dalymount, the 2-0 win, how fast we started in that game. How we just were so energetic and so aggressive from the off. Rovers were just so caught by surprise. They just couldn't handle it, and we absolutely need to see the same again. Because it's all well and good being able to do that in the opening stages. Really put them under the caution, put them under serious amounts of pressure. But it's about taking your chances as well. The big thing from that game last season was the fact that we managed to get a couple of goals in the first half, and kind of give us that bit of a cushion. So if we're not able to do that, if we're coming out from straight from the off, and really pressing them, and we're not able to find the goals. We spoke about Rover squad depth. They'll be able to just pick a few players off the bench, and there's a chance you could be caught tired if you're not winning by a couple of goals. So yeah, that's something that we're gonna have to be wary of. But we all know what the biggest weapon in our arsenal is in these kind of games, and it's the crowd. Look, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely bouncing. It's the first game back in Dalymount this season. Last Friday night game against Rovers in Dalymount for quite some time, so it's going to be a special occasion. So on to the team. Look, I'm not going to change anything from Derry. We spoke about it after the Sligo game as well, heading into the Derry game, how you're not going to change a winning team after such a strong performance. So yeah, I think you're absolutely going to keep it the way it is. How good we've been in all departments, especially in defence. I think it's been night and day compared to years gone by. That back four of Darragh Power, Patrick Hickey, Sam Todd and Senan Mullen have just been absolutely exceptional. Hickey and Todd in particular, especially up in Derry, every time there was a ball in the box, they were getting it away, putting their bodies on the line. Power and Mullen, were nullifying any kind of threats, from out wide. So that back four absolutely has to stay the same. In midfield, we're looking really comfortable. We've been dominating games in there. Flores and Devoy, both of them, we didn't expect Flores to come back into midfield and play so well, but to really act as that kind of number 6 that we've been lacking for a little while now. And then going forward, we've been scoring goals, so there's absolutely no reason to change the team unless there's any injuries we don't know of. One thing you could say as well, Douglas James Taylor, if that knock he picked up against Derry isn't too serious, then maybe you could make a case for him coming back in. But I wouldn't have any issues with Harvey Vaughan playing again. I think he showed some good flashes of quality up in Derry. So even if Dougie is back fit, I don't think it would change the team. So that's what I'm going to go with. It's hard to believe it's the last Friday night game against Rovers and Dalymount for quite some time. It's probably the first kind of big milestone that we're going to be checking off this season. Every so often across the year, we're going to have these milestones. This is the first big one. But like I said, even in the years gone by where, we weren't in a great position, we'd always seem to have that bit of an edge over them in Dalymount just solely from the atmosphere. There's been times where Rovers have come and just not fancied it really, just because we've made it so hostile. And I can even think back to past derbies, that one during COVID in 2021 where we only had I think 800 in the Jolly, but it was still an absolute madhouse. So you know, it just goes to show, you know, how much passion there is for this fixture, and how much we can really get on top of Rovers and make it really, really tough for them. And, you know, we're going to have to see the same again. We know how to get at these. You know, we've seen it last year. You know, they've got a quite an aging back four. If you're, you know, go a bit aggressive against them and really press them and put them under pressure, you know, you might get a bit of joy, you know, like we did in that 2-0 win. Approaching it in a similar way is very important, but it's also important that we take our chances. So I'm going to go with a win. Look, I'm not going to all of a sudden change to being negative, you know. It's not something that I'm going to do after what we've seen in the first 3 games. You know, 2 back-to-back away wins, 2 clean sheets, you know, 3 clean sheets even, and with how good we've been at the back and the fact that we're scoring goals, look, I'm not going to go against us, obviously, so I'm going to go with a 1-0 win. You know, it'd be really great to keep another clean sheet. You know, it's probably the biggest test we'll face so far, you know, with how much strength and depth Rovers have. But if the back four are on song like they have been in the first 3 games, we should, you know, really be looking to keep another clean sheet. And let's just hope that we'll be able to create enough to score a couple of goals and pick up another really, really good win to help build the confidence even further. But yeah, no doubt about it, we've got to bring the energy both, you know, on the pitch and in the stands. And yeah, let's just enjoy it. You know, last Friday night game in Dalymount against Rovers. You just got to enjoy it when you realise it's all going to be gone soon. So yeah, that's where I'll end it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment down below your thoughts heading into the game, your score predictions, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.